about them Irish?
I can't take it anymore. I need a national championship.
This is the Four Horsemen Podcast. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Get on up, it's podcast time. We are back. Season 2 of the Four Horsemen Podcast. It's been a while, guys. How y'all doing?
I want to die every day.
Oh, that's nothing new. What about you, Dylan?
No, that was me.
That was Dylan, surprisingly enough. Steve here, doing great, actually. Things are pretty positive for the summer because it's not football season right now, so I actually have a glimmer of hope. Let me amend that by saying that about 14 days ago, the Boston Bruins ripped the soul right out of my fucking body, but the shell of what's left of me is doing pretty well.
And, we've been down for a while and have a lot to say. But first, I would like to wish Dylan a happy Canada Day.
Thank you. I was going to bring it up, but you guys are decent folks, I guess.
We try. So we have a lot to get into. This off-season has been an off-season for the books, one to write home about. So really to begin, Steve, you really engaged in a pretty big moment in your life recently. Saw it all over Instagram.
Pun.
All over Twitter. It was a wild time for you. So you really took that plunge. Can you tell me about the iron you hit to get your hole-in-one?
I did. Huge news in my life. The biggest news that I can imagine over the last couple months. Probably took the most important step of my life recently, and that was hitting my first career hole-in-one. I also did get engaged, but more importantly, the hole-in-one.
You got it right before Brian Kelly did, and I hate to say
that. So I think it was my second round of the season. Just pulled a pitching wedge from 132 uphill into the winds, put a little baby draw on that thing, landed in the center of the green, started walking back to my cart, and the next thing I know, the ball just drops in the cup. So you are looking and listening to a hole-in-one doer.
Also, a engaged man.
Steve that's
is better.
Also
it's whatever. We don't have to talk about that too much.
Yeah.
Steve is better at golf than me. Dylan is smarter than both of us. He just graduated college or university, whatever they say up there. Magna cum laude, summa cum laude, something cum laude.
Magna cum somewhere. I don't know where.
Oh my, you have to pay extra for that some places. But Dylan, congratulations. He's going to law school in the fall. So when we get sued again, inevitably for Steve playing some music, he can defend us in court. So that's awesome.
We've had some good times on this podcast.
That might be out of his jurisdiction, but you know what? That's never stopped us before.
And in my life, I started season 2 of a podcast. So there we are. And that's really all I have to introduce right now. We are moving right ahead. Really, in this offseason, we've had the NFL draft, we've had spring ball, and we've had some pretty interesting things going on with recruiting. So before we go too far into that, I want to start a segment that will be good for our mental health. Really just something that you have to get off your chest. So I'll start. This will be a weekly segment. It could be about football. It could be about life. It could just be stuff in general. But I was at Trader Joe's the other day, and I don't like when cashiers look at what I'm purchasing and make comments about it. They don't have Trader Joe's up in Canada, Dylan, but it's like a Whole Foods that went to the poorhouse for a little bit, but then came back with better deals than Whole Foods ever could have. That's not a good example, but they always comment on whatever you're purchasing, and they try to have a full conversation with you when I'm just trying to get out of there and get on with my life. So that's just my complaint this week. Dylan, Steve, you got any complaints? Anything you got to get off your chest?
No,
Dylan?
Not really. For any of the listeners, if you're wondering why P-Wagon sounds very echoey, it's because he's doing this podcast via radio from the outskirts of Siberia. So
Yeah,
Just letting you guys
I
know.
also have an issue with Apple PCs, pretty much any type of technology right now. I am just hoping for the best, and the best is what we're trying to get right now. I'm looking at my bars, and they're going in and out. So luckily, I'm not going to be talking too much about the draft and spring ball. But let's start it off with the NFL draft recap. Dylan, Steve, you got it.
Well, quickly, I just wanted to put in one complaint. If it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and there's 10 seconds left in the period, and you're back checking when it's a 3-on-2, don't line change. Finish the play, back check all the way, and try to prevent the other team from skating uncontested into the slot. So that's
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a complaint that I had to get off of my chest. So just play the last 10 seconds of the period and don't give up a devastating goal to go down 2-0 so that way you eventually lose.
You know what? That kind of reminds me, P. I was gonna bring it up. I think you and I have the same favorite song.
You son of a bitch.
Gloria. We can't play the song because we'll get DMCA'd, but Gloria.
Steve has left the chat session.
So yeah, bat check, forecheck, paycheck. That's what they always say, right, boys?
Yes, and speaking of
Letterkenny.
Speaking of paychecks, there's a handful of young, handsome gentlemen from the University of Notre Dame that just got paid. And that brings us into the NFL draft. What a segue.
Very well done. Well, we had 6 guys get drafted. So I guess I'm the NFL draft nerd, so I'll just kind of list it off.
Fire away.
Jerry Tillery went 28th in the first round to the San Diego Chargers. I think that's a great fit for him. I'm glad he went in the first round. He's an elite talent. I'm glad whatever rumors about his personality didn't drop him too far. Really hope he does well in the NFL because he can be that kind of guy that's just an unstoppable DT. So then we go Miles Boykin, round 3 to the Baltimore Ravens. That's pretty high for him. I think his combine kind of shot him right up the draft rankings.
A very surprising 4.4 40. So that kind of came out of nowhere. There was videos on social media of the whole locker room getting amped up for the guy. So that was a good feel-good moment.
Yeah, I think our friend of the podcast, Brad Kelly, would not like where he was picked.
He did not.
But that's the way it goes sometimes. You never really can predict anything with the draft. 4th round, pick 108, the steal of the draft, hands down, goes to the New York Football Giants, Julian Love. Basically, and I was ranting about this, he should have went. Well, I mean, he could do whatever he wants, but I think he should have stayed another year at college because the corner draft in this year was just so stacked that he got lost in the mix because he is a easy second-round talent. And he cost him. Well, he got cost at least a few $1 million there on his first contract. But the Giants picked up a really good player there, which I hate. But
and you got to think, and it actually might work out well for him long term because it's not. Even though he's a 3rd-round guy here or 4th-round guy, it feels like he's going to be able to get onto the field pretty quickly. Which I think is going to pay some long-term dividends. Hopefully, obviously, we wish nothing but success for Julian. He was a absolute fucking rocket for our program.
Yeah, he might be the best corner I've seen in my lifetime at Notre Dame, and it's
easily, hands down.
And the Giants are rebuilding that whole team, starting in defense. That kind of blew that up, so I think he'll get a good shot there. And we know how talented he is. He's just not 6'2" with a wingspan of something ridiculous, but c'est la vie. Next we go round 4. Really surprising pick for me was Drew Tranquill going to the Chargers. The reason
Chargers might be Notre Dame West right now, right?
Well, Tillery. It used to be the Raiders, but that's the way it's looking.
Tillery, Tranquill, and we'll get to the other people as well. Keep going.
The thing that surprised me about it is the fact that our other linebacker, Tevon Coney, didn't get drafted at all, and I thought he would have been. I thought he was more draftable than Drew was. I know some people like Drew's athleticism a little more, lateral movement, but Tevon was just a beast all year, right? I don't really think his lateral movement will be that much of a problem when you just are that good at football.
As a diehard Steelers fan with a severe need for a inside linebacker, this one hurt to not at least draft him in a late round, but maybe, I mean, he's definitely going to get signed to some sort of rookie camp, and hopefully he can stand out enough to get on a roster because he is incredibly talented.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if he was picked up or where he went.
I would search on my phone, but that might send us into oblivion, so I'm going to refrain.
We're not going to risk it.
So people understand the inside joke. My Wi-Fi is destroyed, so I'm currently streaming this podcast by using my phone as the Wi-Fi personal hotspot.
For all 27 of you, swipe up, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. We need as much money as we can get. I'm not sure you can hear me right now.
That's how poor we are.
Dollars help.
Tavon Coney signed with the Raiders, which is another good fit there.
Yeah,
it's hard not to like the Raiders just because they're so hardcore. Moving on, we got Dex Williams, drafted 6th round, 94 to the Green Bay Packers.
Steal.
The Packers need a running back. I think that is a good place to pick a running back. Dex is really good. I think that's going to work out well for everyone there. The problem with Dex is he can't catch a ball. And during the Senior Bowl, too, he was struggling with that. But you know what? I think he's a really talented running back as far as running backs go. And I think that's another good fit for a team I don't want to see him go to. But, that's the way it is. And then last, and I can't believe he got drafted, Alize Mack to the New Orleans Saints at 231, round 7. Keeping the tradition alive, apparently there's now a record, so many years of a consecutive Notre Dame tight end being drafted. And I think that's pretty neat. I think he's super athletic, super talented. Will he ever put it together? I don't know. He kind of did when Book showed up. But, that's one we'll see. So do you guys like any picks there in particular?
I personally love the Dexter Williams pick. I know I'm a little bit faint right now, but 22 is going to do great things over in Green Bay. I really think he's going to put it together, and I'm looking forward to see him play and hopefully be that Packer for years to come. Shout out Jim Anderson.
Yeah, I honestly, Drew Tranquil and Drew Tranquil and Jerry Tillery to the same team. I think that's going to help with chemistry, obviously. 2 rookies, same university.
And our punter went there too.
Nice. Yeah, so a couple guys that are all going to be there together, and they're both on the interior of the defense for a defense that was very hot or cold out in LA. So, I think they both stand a chance to get some significant playing time. Obviously, Tillery more so being a 1st-round pick, but yeah, a nice get for the Chargers. As much as I loathe them for beating the Steelers last year, that ended up costing me a lot of money to a personal friend who I loathe. But pretty excited for Tranquil. He was always, I think he was probably one of my favorite guys in the last decade.
Don't we have another guy in San Diego or Las Vegas or LA, wherever the hell those stupid Chargers are now? Rochelle, right?
Isaac's down there, yeah.
Right. That kind of brings a quick question, if you guys could think. What NFL team has, the best Notre Dame talent? At least the one that you would kind of root for.
Presently or all time?
Minnesota?
Just currently in the league.
Minnesota.
They just got one. Just
Kyle Rudolph. And then they have who's the safety? Harrison Smith is a stud. And then I think
sucked.
I think Michael Floyd might be on there. Might have signed like a 1-year deal with them.
Probably.
Most likely, he does have a drinking and driving problem. For someone who makes 7 figures, you'd think that he'd learn how to use the Uber app, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, can I put forth a team? We would say probably that Notre Dame's the biggest team in the country, right?
Correct.
So maybe that you could say they're America's team?
Oh, we're going Cowboys here, huh?
Zach Martin, and then Jalen Smith, who is a hero after what he came back from. I know I'm biased there, but, it's hard not to like those two boys, especially when you get like a monster like Zach Martin.
Yeah.
You
have a point there.
In terms of top-end talent, I think Dallas and Minnesota are 1-2, just given those 4 guys that we talked about. They're superstars at each of their positions. So
I'd also like to point out that Notre Dame offensive tackles put together around the NFL would be the best offensive tackle group or offensive line group in the history of the NFL.
100%.
Stanley, my boy McGlinchey, Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, and then John Sullivan. That's unreal. Those are basically 5 all-stars.
And just going off of that real quick, TJ Smith is still in the league. Or not TJ Smith, I'm sorry.
TJ Jones.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, he is.
That's wild.
He's great.
Sorry.
Him and Theo Reddick, too.
Yeah, I looked at their names. I'm like, you were playing when I was in high school, when Dylan was in diapers. Like, and speaking of individuals in diapers, we just got a whole batch of new recruits, and I'm going to let our lead senior recruiting correspondent, Steve, hit the ground running here and tell us all about our new batch of baby-faced, freshly shaven individuals who are hopefully going to make us a lot of money one day.
If I can jump in just first, I'd like to give like a preface to this, because for the listeners at home, our podcast is really a spectrum when it comes to recruiting, with Steve and P-Wagon on just polar opposite ends. So Steve loves recruiting. He thinks these guys are gods, that they're going to become gods. And I understand that. And on the other side, P-Wagon just thinks that they're useless until they ever prove themselves, and that recruiting is not even worth following. So I'm kind of a little bit in the middle there. I understand. I follow the recruiting. So when you listen to us talk about it, keep it in mind that P-Wagon absolutely hates high school kids, and Steve likes them.
Coached them for 4 years. So Steve, take it away.
Listen, this is not about my crush on Phil Jerkovich. Okay? So let's get that completely off the table, who, by the way, could have had a better spring game, but that's neither here nor there. He's going to be the greatest Notre Dame quarterback in history next year. Anyway, I mean, if you've paid attention to Notre Dame recruiting headlines over the past 6 to 8 weeks, it honestly feels like this is the corner that needed to be turned to get back to permanent national relevance. Not once every couple of years we get up and into a top 10 finish and then get into a fancy bowl game and then get blown out. We're not going to talk about that. We're talking about the future, and we just referenced NFL talent on the offensive line, and holy shit, do we have so much talent coming in on the offensive line this year. For the 2020 class, we've signed a couple of guys. For the 2021 class, we signed a couple of guys. We have more tackles and guards that are 4- and 5-star recruits than that we could possibly know what to do with. I'd like to amend that. The 5-star recruits are not committed yet, but there's 2 of them that are favored for the 2021 class. But we've had so many, very, very, very highly ranked offensive tackles that have been signed. And this year's class in general is looking remarkable. And it starts with 2 guys that we've been waiting a long time as a program to put together a class that's going to look like what we've put together this year. So our marquee recruit right now, technically, if you go by 5-star ranking, is Jordan Johnson, 6'2". He's a wide receiver out of Missouri. He is a 5-star recruit. So he's the 5th ranked wide receiver overall. This is obviously a huge get for us. Our last 5-star recruit at wide receiver was, in fact, Michael Floyd. So it's been a while since we've had such top-end talent. And this year, it looks like we're going to have a drop-off in terms of wide receiver talent, but we have a bunch in the pipeline. But Jordan Johnson coming in next year as a true freshman, as long as he holds his commitment, it's very promising. And he's followed closely right behind by, I think, who will be the most transformational recruit in Notre Dame contemporary history, which is Chris Tyree. He's technically considered a 4-star running back right now. Everybody knows he's a 5-star talent. Everyone who's looked at him knows he's a 5-star talent. He's going to end up with a 5-star ranking eventually. He just needs to complete his senior season. He's the number 1 ranked all-purpose back in the nation. 5'9", 178. So he's shorter, but he's got some juice on him. And as of yesterday, he is officially the fastest high school recruit in the nation. He ran a 4.340 as a 17-year-old. So he is a absolute rocket ship. Like, this is legitimately, and I tweeted this earlier, he is the Reggie Bush of Notre Dame. Has speed and talent that he's going to bring, along with Jordan Johnson on the outside. 2 top-end commits, including Michael Mayer, the number 1 overall tight end in the nation, a bunch of offensive line commits, and then obviously Drew Pine. I mean, this class is outstanding. So there's so much to be excited for, and I'll let you guys throw in your thoughts now.
Yeah, no, I think for sure. I think Tyree, for one, is the fastest running recruit 2 years in a row, which is just showing how dynamic he'll be. And I'm really interested to see how he works in the new Chip Long offense, and how they'll use him, because I think he could do a lot of dynamic stuff. He hit it right on the point too. I mean, rankings and star ratings aren't always necessarily everything, because I mean, people do get them wrong, but it is important. We have the number 1 tight end in the country ranked. We have the number 1 running back in the country ranked, and we also have the number 2 tight end. So it's just showing what kind of powerhouse we're becoming with certain talents. And another thing is, when's the last time Notre Dame started actually getting high end recruits in talented positions? Running back, wide receiver, corner. That's starting to change. The sort of that rough kind of tough football is kind of turning into a little more athletic playmaking football, which is really good and what we need for the modern game. I'm really excited. I think, what is it? Out of the last 4 years, we've been a 10-win team 3 times, including a playoff berth after a 12-0 season. Notre Dame's back. And that's not like Texas is back. Notre Dame is seriously contending, year in, year out. We're not winning a title yet, but we're in that conversation. And I think where we are actually is kind of where Oklahoma is, where it's Oklahoma hasn't won a title yet in the last few years, albeit their drought has been much shorter, but they're perennially in this conversation of the playoff, right? They're always a playoff team. They're always a contender to win it. And I think Notre Dame, another 10, 11 win season this year, and we're going to start being put in that conversation as well, because that's the way it is. I mean, we've been really, really good lately. That one horrible season aside, where basically bad bounces cost Notre Dame at least 3 games that year. The year they went 4-8, right? They weren't that bad, but that's the kind of way the games go. It's a good
Was
program.
That the year against Florida State with the pick play?
No. I meant the 4-8 season we had in 2017.
Yes.
2016.
All right,
yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah.
No, but just to go off of that real quick, Dylan, you misspoke. You meant to say 14-0, because we're winning a goddamn national championship this year. I don't care who has to stand in our way. Fuck everyone. But going forward with this class that we have, Drew Pine is Elite 11. I think he's number 5 last time I checked. He's been throwing dimes all over the place.
Confirmed, yes.
He will be the Ian Book, the Phil Jerkovic of the future. And setting up for quarterback, just moving forward, you have Book this year, probably going to come out, which will be stupid for him because he's in a class with Tua and Trevor. But at the same time, and that kid from Oklahoma, the transfer, the quitter, Haskins, I think. With them,
Hurts.
Whatever, they're all the same human. With that, moving forward, you get Jerkovic for a couple years, then you get Pine, and we're just reloading with quarterbacks, which is great to see. But at the same time,
and then after Pine is 5-star quarterback Tyler Buckner.
Yep.
Yeah, that I was going there. So they're going to be good, but my whole issue with these kids is they're kids. Kids are inherently stupid. No offense, Dylan, but we will change our mind. If I was a 17-year-old, I'll change my mind 17 different times before I get out of bed in the morning. So you have these kids saying, "Oh, I'm pop committed. I'm Notre Dame through and through." And then you have someone roll around and say, "Oh, I'll give you a little bit more money because boosters do exist," and they'll change their commitment right away. So getting all your hopes in one basket for a 5-star recruit who could just say "fuck you" any day of the week because his girlfriend doesn't like the colors, it doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my opinion on recruiting.
Well, I got 2 things to kind of put out there. One, the whole Haskins Hurts, I don't know the difference. That's because their last name starts with an H and not because they're black. I just want to put that out there, probably.
Thank you for saying that.
Just covering us legally here. Also,
Lawyer
P,
Dylan.
when you said you wake up and change your mind 17 times when you were a kid, were those decisions mainly whether to jerk off or not? Was that it?
No, it was mostly cereal, to be honest with you. I had a wide array of cereals in the morning.
I don't think any 17-year-old kid is deciding not to jerk off. If we're being
Well,
That's a
also
fair
objective.
point.
let's change. I might have to cut this part, but you know, the
No,
whole
it's the best
thing,
part by far.
the whole thing is they're making decisions. They're making very either rash decisions or decisions based on what they're hearing from the message boards and assholes like us. So with that, if they're saying, "Oh, I'll commit right now and have all this fan base love me," 3 months later, they could just, a gust of wind could come by and they would realize that they don't want to play at Notre Dame and they would rather be in South Beach or rather be in LA or rather be in Texas. I don't know. They are irrational.
There's no good football schools in Los Angeles.
None. But at the same time, they could go to Pepperdine. But, the whole thing is they're looking at this whole landscape. And until
Fuck USC.
until you're 25 years old, you don't have a fully developed brain. So we're putting all our eggs in all these kids' baskets right now when they could change their mind just on a whim, just on one phone call from a coach. Just saying.
And I would like to point out respectfully that I would be okay if Phil Jerkovich put his eggs in my basket.
Oh, my.
Nice.
All right. And there is no good segue there. But speaking of eggs in basket, the Easter season's during the spring, but also during the spring comes spring ball. I personally didn't watch the game.
That's
because
good.
I was more concerned with USA Rugby coming in second in the world in rugby. Lost to Fiji, but whatever. So Steve, Dylan, whoever watched the spring ball game, you need to find better hobbies. But tell me about the game, and I won't make any comments.
Dill?
I can't tell you anything about the game, but I would have liked to finish my thought there that recruiting classes get better when teams win. And that's what's so important about us being consistently good and what another playoff run would really do for the Irish. Just because you see after 1 year of being in the playoff how great the following recruiting class is. So we gotta keep that up and keep winning, because winning's the success to great recruiting classes. But like you said, they can change their minds. It's hard to change your mind when you're a fucking playoff team. You don't see many commits flipping on Alabama or Clemson. So that's one way to keep them. As for spring ball, I didn't watch it. I just know that fucking Phil Jerkovich was not good. And that scares me because we are all part of the Phil is our Lord and Savior club. Just 3 of us, though.
Yeah.
Ian Book, it's his position. There's not going to be a quarterback competition this year. Thank God. Brandon Wimbush did a lot of good for the program. He's at UCF now. We'll have our resident UCF fan, Katie, on later in the season to learn how to survive Wimbush. But there's not a competition. It's Book's team. It's going to be Book's team. What I'm really interested to see is the production of Claypool and production of some of the tight ends who weren't getting too much play last year because of the Boykins and all of that. And I know Chris Finke was there doing his own thing, but I didn't see too much of it. Steve, what do you have from the spring ball game?
Yeah. Defensive line is going to be ferocious, even with losing Jerry Tillery. I mean, thank God both of our defensive ends came back. We are very deep, on the defensive line and in the front 7 in general. The middle linebackers, the linebacker core in general, there's going to be a learning curve, but they are all freak athletes, so I think they'll all get there eventually. Obviously, it's a little concerning that Phil is struggling a little bit, but I think more so than anything, it's paralysis by analysis. He literally had like 6,000 yards in 10 games in his senior year of high school. That's astonishing. And he threw for like 50 touchdowns. So he's used to being big man on campus and just absolutely bullying secondaries. It's a little bit different when you got absolute freak athletes from all over the nation, at Notre Dame and on defense they're just faster, they're bigger, they're smarter. So I think that initial shell shock, don't think anything of the spring game. Obviously it does stink that he's not coming out and rockets that we would hope, like Trevor Lawrence for example, but I think he'll get there in time. It's just taking reps, getting used to the playbook, learning how to read defenses, and it's all going to come in time. It's very, very rare that you're on campus, but still a redshirt freshman. Very rare that those guys are going to come out and just be absolute, superstars. So thankfully, he's on the bench this year. Plenty of time to learn. Knock on wood, I hope we don't have to see him unless it's garbage time. And Book can stay healthy. We obviously know Book is a top 10, at the very least, top 15 college quarterback. And he's accurate. He's good.
I'll put that right now.
I didn't want to say it, but I personally think that, but a lot of the college football community will put him in the top 10 to 15. I think he's definitely top 5 talent, but that's personal bias. But yeah, I mean, we're in a good position. The running backs are going to be something to keep an eye on. I think Jafar Armstrong is good. I think Tony Jones is, it's going to leave more to be desired. So I think the offense takes a step back this year, even though Book probably plays better than last year. But with that being said, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a complete team. And I think each year, because of these recruiting classes, we are going to become a more and more complete team. So the future is promising. And just a quick note as to, recruits changing their minds and everything. I can definitely get that if you commit to Oklahoma or, Georgia, Alabama, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of other recruits coming in, you get, cold feet. You're not sure if that's going to be the right spot for you. And these guys are basically going to play football. They're not going to play school, as I forget what that quarterback said at Ohio State, but regardless, the Notre Dame difference, not only are we able to recruit top end talent, but a lot of these guys, and the huge pitch for Notre Dame is 4 for 40. You do your 4 years at Notre Dame, you're set for 40 years of your life, because there's life after football, and statistically, these guys stand less than a 5% chance at making it pro. And if they do, then there's even a smaller chance they're going to stay in the league for longer than 3 years. I think that pitch is starting to resonate. Academics is taking a huge impact in a lot of these guys' decisions. So Notre Dame, I get that you're saying that guys can jump around in a heartbeat. It just feels like a different school where we do generally a good job of keeping commits. And I think that's going to to Dylan's point, create a lot more consistency in the future, a lot more winning seasons, 9, 10, 11 wins, and just make us a perennial contender. So it's definitely feels like we are quote unquote.
So
back.
if I can, I got some more spring ball stuff too. Well, first thing is, I think I actually disagree with you on the offense. I think the offense is going to take a step forward this year because, one, they have to. 2, the offensive line is completely returning. I think 4 starters. That is going to be very, very scary. And I don't think it matters who's running back there. They're going to be getting a lot of yards. Tony Jones is a good change of pace. And here's the thing. So there's a few, at least a little bit of buzz coming out of South Bend right now, and it's the receiver group. It's a lot of unknown names, but it's super athletic, and people are getting really excited about it, and they think that the offense is going to be tailor-made for them. Another thing is both Khalid Kareem and Julian Okawara are getting a lot of draft hype. So we're getting that edge, like you mentioned, Steve. Though those edge presence is going to be probably the best edge group in college football right now. Will be Notre Dame, that duo. For these reasons, really mainly that pass rush is going to be elite. The offensive line is going to be elite, and if Ian Book takes a natural progression, a natural step forward and not a step back, so, he improves some long ball accuracies. And you guys are right to say he's a top 10 quarterback. He absolutely was last year. I think he would
top 5.
I think he would push top 5 this year. You've got the big 2 of Lawrence, Tua, and then you're looking at Jake Fromm, Ian Book, the kid from Oregon, Hubert, possibly Shea Patterson, but fuck Michigan. So, yeah, they're going to be bad this year. Take the under on Michigan. Well, not bad, but they lost their whole defense, and that's the way they play.
They're not going to win 11 games. 11 and a half games is ridiculous.
Yeah, we could talk about how stupid the over-unders are this year. But yeah, no, basically, I think we're going to be really good this year. When you put together pass rushing, elite quarterback play, and elite offensive line, you have basically all it takes to win a title. If you were an NFL team and you told me you had, the best a top pass rushing group, a top quarterback, and a top offensive line group, I would say you'd be winning the Super Bowl. So I really think that despite some turnovers at receiver and linebacker, I think it's going to be a really good season for the Irish. The problem is the schedule, and we'll get to that in another podcast. But the future's bright, and you keep winning. You're going to keep bringing in these recruits, and that's it. So, P, do you want to lead us into the over/under?
Yeah. So Notre Dame's over/under is ridiculously low.
Shockingly bad.
At 8.5 the last time I checked. And Dylan, tell me if I'm wrong on that, but from last I checked, it was 8.5 with Michigan at 11.5.
So my gambling friend told me, shout out to Evan, that it's likely because they're including the Big Ten championship game, so conference championship games count for those teams,
right?
Which is why 11.5 or whatever it is for Michigan is a little more understandable,
right?
The problem is that Michigan has lost their entire defense, and as we see, when a good defense plays Michigan, they could pick apart, or a good offense, they could pick apart the defense, and plus you got to return those guys. And I also don't trust the Michigan offense to really do anything, so I'm really low on Michigan.
Didn't their starting running back just get suspended for the full year?
Yep,
could have been. I don't follow them.
I'm pretty sure Higdon was kicked out, or at least suspended for the year, or at least a substantial amount of time.
You're going to see Notre Dame's number go up.
Yeah, bet it now.
It's criminally low. Like you would be thrown in any jail in any country if you told me that to my face, or I would be thrown in jail for assaulting you. Because they're saying this. They're saying that Georgia's a loss right away, and then from there, they're saying that there could be a slide after Michigan. So they're taking those two losses right there. So they're 10-2 with 2 losses, but they're looking at the slide that happened a few years ago, and that's the problem.
Well, here's the thing: is the way I would look at it is how many games is Notre Dame favored in or not favored in, and Michigan, they will not be favored in 2 games: Georgia, Michigan, and I mean we're going to beat Michigan. Who knows about Georgia, and then maybe Stanford, but I don't know if Stanford is going to be good enough to at least earn a betting favorite on that night.
They're good, but I still think they're a little bit in rebuilding mode.
So right now you have 2 and maybe 1. So what I would say is that's kind of 2.5. So 10.5, 9.5, that makes a lot more sense if I'm at least an odds maker. As a Notre Dame fan, I would love to hammer the over there because I don't see us losing 4 games this year. I just don't think it's possible. It's a tough schedule, don't get me wrong, but we are going to be favored in 10 of those 12 games, and we should win, I think, 12 of them, maybe 11, at least 9. Come on. 8.5 is ridiculous. But I will say this. I think more interestingly is USC's at 6.5, and I think we should take the under. Surprisingly, that's how bad they're going to be this year.
Oh, they're a dumpster fire, and the whole thing with them being that big of a dumpster fire, you're looking at the end of the season, they're playing upset special to Notre Dame, unless they're playing at Indy this year. I'm not sure, but regardless, they're going to play whatever it's called.
Well, here's the thing. We've played this game before. I may have made you guys do this, but this is USC's schedule. Count the wins when they get to South Bend. They start the season against Fresno State. Fresno State was really good last year. They might win that one. They then play Stanford at home, BYU on the road, Utah at home, Washington on the road, Notre Dame on the road. I think they'd be lucky to win a game. Honestly,
they legitimately, what's that? 5 games? They might legitimately be 1-4 coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
So you tell me 1-5 to start their season, assuming they lose to Notre Dame. I think I kind of like the under on 6.5.
Yeah, I don't see them doing very well this year. The coach is on the hot seat. They don't have anything to play for. The whole Pac-12 is a dumpster fire right now. They may get kicked out of the NCAA or some shit like that for having the players allow them to represent themselves and get likeness checks or something. I'm not too big into contract law, but it's not a good situation out in the Pac-12, and it's USC. I am just glad to watch it burn. Watching Troy burn is.
basically, how many intervals of 25 do we beat USC by? Like, if it's at home at night, Notre Dame's good against USC. We're really good in that environment. We blew them out when they had Sam Darnold. If USC's 1-5 or 1-4, whatever, when they come to Notre Dame, and it's a home game, rivalry game at night, I think we could see 100 points scored. And I say that half jokingly.
Well, I don't think we should get too ahead of ourselves. And obviously, we got the entire summer. This was definitely a nice little spring wrap up with the draft, recruiting, and then a little teaser to the season. So let's save the season preview for as we get closer to fall, around August. So we're not far away. It's probably 6 to 8 weeks away. It's coming soon. So I figure we should probably wrap up with some closing thoughts or any other segments you have in mind, Pat.
No, parting words and closing thoughts for right now. We are, it's almost the 4th of July. So happy Independence Day to all of you Americans out there. Happy Canada Day. I don't really know what that is, but I'm not mad about it. And really, the whole thing going into this season, we were cautiously optimistic last year. I will remain cautiously optimistic this year. I hope everyone has a happy and safe summer. Dylan, I still don't believe that there is summer in Canada. But going forward from there, have a nice brisk fall day, Dylan. And we will see y'all in August when we go over the season preview. And if you are looking to either come on for a segment, if you have working technology, let us know. Follow me on Twitter, pwagon60. Follow Steve at Steve Campy. Follow Dilly at Dylan at Dilly97. There's a couple underscores in there or something. You know where to find us. And don't be afraid to let us know what we sucked at, what we did good at, and we're always looking to improve. And if you're looking to sponsor us, we do accept Venmo, Cash App, and working technology. So that's all I got for tonight. Go Irish. What about you guys?
I would like to point out that a nice brisk fall evening is preferable to a hot summer night for me. Just go Irish. We're gonna get into it soon. We were planning on doing a preview in a couple weeks, sometime in August. But this is a little teaser for our 27 fans out there to kind of get a surprise podcast and to hear the voices of their 3 most favored people.
Steven?
I'm nobody's favorite person, but and Dylan, just a quick question going off what you said, is a hot summer day in Canada like 68 degrees?
It could get up to like 30 Celsius, which is like, I don't know, like 80 something. That's too hot for me. I like it. I like a nice like 17-degree day. Fall's my favorite.
17 degrees is below freezing.
Well, Celsius. You guys are still using a backward system there for no reason.
I hate you. No, it was 91 here today in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
the birthplace of civilization.
It would get to 91. That's I don't like that. That's too hot.
Quick fun fact about how hot it was today. My fucking dumbass. I got home from the train, walked from the train back to my house, which is about 1.5 miles, only to realize that I actually drove to the train today. So then I had to walk back to the train station and then drive my car home. So yeah, we are definitely ready for Independence Day weekend, and everyone have a good one because America's the best. And also happy Canada Day, I suppose. And go Irish.
Go Irish.